In 2008, Virginia lawmakers passed the Alicia's Law Child Rescue Bill. The new law was based on a simple idea. Law enforcement knows where tens of thousands of Virginia criminals are, right now trafficking in horrific child pornography images. Follow the traffic to their doors, and you'll rescue children in danger. Since 2008, Alicia's Law has funded the arrest of hundreds of child predators, protecting thousands of Virginia children, and it's just getting started. But from the beginning, Alicia's Law had opponents. This is Delegate Scott Lingenfelter. He's an appropriator, which means he decides how to spend Virginia taxpayers' money.
Sitting on the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Speaker, has been a real eye-opener for me. You get a real insight into how people are willing to bring huge budget amendments and request for things they know well we can't afford in tight times. Last night, we heard from one patron who had a great project that he wanted funded. He went on to tell us that it was the highest priority, number one, that we have before us this year, and it would only cost $35 million. Mr. Speaker, I will be voting to stick up for taxpayers, not to stick them up.
That's Lingenfelter trying to drag Alicia's Law down into the political mud. It didn't work. Fighting child predators just isn't a political issue. When Lingenfelter finished his speech, here's what Delegate Brian Moran had to say in response.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proudly take the floor this afternoon to say, yes, I was that member that stood before the Appropriations Committee and was grilled as to where we could find the $32 million to protect 2,500 of our children who will be subject to sexual child predators over the next year. Mr. Speaker, I was there before the Appropriations Committee to speak to Alicia's Law. You were all privy to see Alicia when she joined us in the gallery a couple of weeks ago, a 19-year-old wonderful woman now, but 6 years ago she was subject of an indescribable, unspeakable torture in the basement of a Virginia home. So I stood before the Appropriations Committee asking them the $32 million. You know, we politicians are great about talking tough on crime. You know, we all want to be tough on crime. In fact, 2 years ago, we passed a bill that established a 25-year mandatory minimum for child sexual predators. Boy, that's pretty tough. I'm glad everybody probably put that on their brochure and said, we're going to crack down on these people. Well, I was a prosecutor for 7 years. I know you cannot put a person behind bars unless you have a successful prosecution. You can't have a successful prosecution unless you have a good arrest. And you don't have a good arrest, as the delegate from Manassas knows, unless you have a good investigation, good police work. And that's what Alicia's Law was about. It's about providing resources to our law enforcement officers to make those needed arrests, to put those sickos behind bars that are victimizing our children.
To get around politicians like Scott Lingenfelter, Alicia's Law was rewritten. No taxpayer money would be used at all. Instead, a new court fee would be imposed, so criminals paid the bill. It was far less than $30 million, so far fewer children would be saved. But it was a start. But every 2 years, Delegate Scott Lingenfelter kept up his fight against Alicia's Law anyway. In 2012, he sided with Governor Bob McDonnell, who tried to raid the Alicia's Law Fund, taking money from police and child victims to use in his general fund. And now, in 2014, Delegate Scott Lingenfelter is back at it again. This time, he says he opposes using any Alicia's Law funds for teaching school children safety in PE. Teaching our children how to recognize danger and report sexual abuse is a good idea, and it's a good addition to Alicia's Law. It would save many children and many families from the nightmare of abuse. I know, because I'm Alicia.